What's up? What's up? It is week 17. We are in the playoffs. We are in the championships. If you might have a week 18 game coming up, but we're going to sum it up this week on who you should start, who you should sit. Waivers are probably cleared out at this point. There might be a few people that you can grab. I'm solo dolo. Everybody's got the holiday hangover. Next week, we are going to have our New Year's show. It is going to be our best and worst of fantasy 2023. You're going to catch a little memorial for all of the players that we lost this season, along with a special guest from the LA Cheeseheads, one of the biggest Packer groups out here in Los Angeles, and Janae, also aka Schmoopy. She should be joining us as well next week. So let's get into it. If you played George Pickens, if you set him in your lineup, congratulations. That was amazing. He finally showed up, and who would have thought that Mason Rudolph would have helped him do that? Wild. Starting with wide receivers, we'll jump into it because I am quite upset because I invested in him. And, of course, I mean, anybody who was smart enough sat him. He's only averaged 8.8 points this entire season, so that's fun. But George Pickens is somebody that I would be cautious and kind of stay away from this week. And it's, the Seattle, they've held top receivers, to like 12 catches on 126 yards, no touchdowns. And that includes A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Calvin Ridley. So we'll start off with Pickens being, for me, a cautionary start. If you have to start him in like a 3 wide receiver set, maybe a double flex, sure, just be careful. All right, so we're going to jump in. We're going to start with the Chiefs. I went to the Chiefs-Raiders game, and boy, let me tell you, that was messy. That was a messy game for them. Now, if we know anything about the Chiefs, we know that Mahomes does not like to lose, and he does not like to lose like that, especially at home, especially on Christmas Day. I have a feeling that they're going to grind this week, and your number 1 wide receiver starting is Rashee Rice. I think they're going to have great opportunities. I think he's going to have several targets. I think Mahomes is going to try to stay in the pocket a little bit more this week if that O-line can stay up for him and take care of him like they're supposed to. I don't know what was happening, but the Raiders were just explosive on D. Obviously, they've been that way, and that's another, team we need to pay attention to. They're doing something right over there. So I think Rashee Rice is a must start. Nico Collins, I think Noah Brown is going to be out. Stroud's looking like he's trending towards playing. I think it's important that you keep an eye on Stroud's progress. We will know more, obviously, on Friday, and you can catch Friday night's show right here on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. So Terry McLaurin is another must start for me. All right, we've got Brissett starting, and McLaurin's best game with Howell was like 90 yards, and that was in week 7. So, I mean, we're at the point now where we need to really pay attention to what the Commanders are doing, and I think Gibson and McLaurin are going to be your must starts there. I would stay away from Brissett because we have no idea what that's going to look like. If your quarterback situation's looking a little sketch, Brissett is not the place to go. All right. And then moving on, now we've got Jordan Edison is out with an injury. I mean, he's trending, to me, he's trending towards not playing. So I think KJ Osborne, if you need to pick somebody off the waivers and really get going, then that's something that we need to do. Hey, Samuel, what's up? Thanks for joining. Laporta or Okonkwo? Ooh. See, Laporta's not human. Okonkwo had a great game. I think Okonkwo is a great start, but I'm always going to lean towards Laporta because he's more reliable. And, I mean, it's going to be a tough game with Detroit on the road, especially against Dallas. I think there's going to be a lot of checkdowns. And then Goff, we know Goff is good for checkdowns. So I think Laporta is going to be your red zone target, him and Gibbs. So I'm going to go with Laporta on that. Ooh, I do love it. He's not human. So, I mean, Okonkwo, I drafted quite a few shares of Okonkwo earlier this season. And so I understand that one good game, though, isn't reliable for your championship, right? So thanks for the question. What's up, Albert? In the house, always. Thank you for joining us. Or me, I should say. So I think back to KJ Osborne, I think that there's an opportunity that, we're going to see more from him with Mullins and with Hawkinson out. How sad. That's another big injury to this week that was really devastating. But I put Osborne as a wide receiver 3. I mean, I wouldn't put him at Addison's level. Obviously, we know he's got dropsies, but a finger sometimes. So just be cautious, temper your expectations. But if you really need to throw somebody in there, I did grab him in for my championships, just to throw him on the bench and see what else I can find throughout the week before we get to the final games. So what's up, Texas Trojan? How's it going? Anybody in their championships? If you are in your championship, let me know who's in your lineup. Let's check it out. All right, so let's jump into. We're gonna make this a short show because next week we're gonna make it an hour long, and it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be the best and worst of fantasy 2023. We've got some good videos lined up for you guys. It's gonna be pretty funny. Actually, let's jump into quarterbacks. All right, so streaming quarterbacks. This is gonna be crazy. Derek Carr averaging 268.5 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. He's a top wide receiver. He has a top wide receiver back at full health. So with Chris Olave back in action, Tampa's allowing 264 passing yards per game. So I think that Derek Carr is a great streaming option. I think you're going to get at least 22, 23 in full PPR out of him. And with Olave, they've really finally gotten some magic working with Olave back at full health. So another great option, I think, is Stafford. I mean, obviously, if you have Stafford, you've been starting him. But like for me, for instance, I have Goff and Stafford. I have been rotating them back and forth. But I think Stafford has a great matchup, obviously, this week against the Giants. We did see what the Giants did to the Eagles. So I think it could potentially be a shootout, obviously, with a new QB coming in for the Giants. Tyrod, I think he's got more experience than DeVito. So like there's a situation where I think we might have them going back and forth, but Stafford's really found his stride as well. So he's got 14 passing touchdowns, 1 interception over the last 5 games. So his accuracy is on point. All right. I think, Joe Flacco has been reliable, but we're coming up this week against the Jets. And I think the Jets forced Howell out of his starting position. So I would just temper your expectations with Flacco. Let's see what Samuel's got here. He's in a championship. Fields, C-Mac, Barkley, A.J. Brown, Debo, Laporta, Ken Walker, Niners D. I had Fairbairn last week. I was a little disappointed. I picked him up last week. I string kickers all the time, but I did not call that. But that's a lineup. I mean, it sucks because you lost Fields for a while. I wonder who you were playing in place of Fields. But with C-Mac, shit. I'm doing just fine. The other thing, too, with Barkley, I was a little cautious about Barkley this week, but I'd be a little concerned this week about Barkley. But obviously, if he's in your lineup, he's not a person that you sit. I understand that completely. The Rams have held running backs. I think they're the third fewest points in the league. So, but that's one hell of a lineup, Sam. Shit. Thank you for sharing. All right, so moving on, we've got Russell is out. Russell is no longer cooking. He's 86th, friends. So if you need to pivot, now hear me out. This is going to be a little wild. Hot take. Mullins, right? Nick Mullins. Who would have thought? Everybody said keep sitting him. But if you need to average 20 points, if you're not looking for that full, I don't think we're going to get 30 points out of quarterbacks in these last weeks, right? Because the quarterbacks have been figured out. The offenses have been figured out, right? The defensive coordinators have been paying attention. They know what they're doing. They know what moves they're going to make, right? So I think situationally, if you need to get at least 20, and I think most of us need at least 20 from our QBs, is Mullins is reliable for that in these last 2 games. I mean, they were ugly, but again, it's a solid set of points. We'll call him Mr. All Reliable, right? I mean, we saw Brock Purdy throw 4 interceptions, and then we've seen Jake Browning, surpass that, right? We see Baker have 100% passer rating. So, I mean, if you got to do it, right? If you got Russ and you were dwindling because quarterbacks have been in the trenches this year. So I don't know. Personally, I'm sitting Tua and Lawrence. I know that sounds crazy, but if we look at Tua, he's literally scored between 12 and 14 points, depending on your league, right, in the past 3 or 4 games. So it's a tough matchup. They're going up against the Ravens. We saw what the Ravens did on Monday. So let's really think about the decisions you're making. We got to be really, really like thoughtful in the process of setting these. Like, we're trying to win some money, right? So and Lawrence, he's been banged up. We already know. We don't even know if he's going to play this week. So that's another tough call, because that brings us back to Ridley, right? I think Ridley's a giant bust this week, especially with the questionable Lawrence. So, Lawrence going, and then also, we've got the Jags going up against the Panthers. The Panthers have allowed the second fewest points per game to quarterbacks, which is crazy, right? So I don't know. Quarterback situation, I think everybody's pretty much set. Like, we see Mahomes is averaging like 17 points. He's running with his legs. He had the highest rush yards, right, on Monday. But again, he was running for his life. So watching that in person was devastating, let me tell you. So I would, Mahomes is a must start, I think, anyway. Again, they're going to come back with a vengeance, and I think they're going to come back with a game plan. They looked really disorganized, and I'm not sure why. It was cold, but it wasn't that cold. So moving on to running backs. This is where I think a lot of us struggle on who to start. Again, I'm going to say we're going to start off with being cautious with Pollard and Barkley. If Barkley's in your lineup, you don't ever want to sit Barkley. Like, I've started Pollard no matter what. But, Detroit, and granted they're on the road, but, Detroit and Dallas, like, has allowed the fewest fantasy points to running backs. And Pollard hasn't scored in 3 weeks. Like, that's an issue. We need, Pollard needs those points. So, and then on the other side, Barkley. So the Rams are, they've allowed, they're number 2 with the fewest fantasy points to running backs. So I'm just sending out a bust alert, guys, throwing it out there. I think must starts this week, Austin Eckler. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if Pacheco is out, and I have a strong feeling with the concussions. I mean, we haven't seen anybody get a concussion on Monday and then play on Sunday, right? That hasn't really happened. And we even saw CJ Stroud. He was out. He's been out for 2 weeks, right? He's in phase 4 of the concussion protocol. So I do think that he will play. James Conner, let's talk about that, man, because he has been relevant and present. Okay. So James Conner is here. He is here to stay. He's proven to us that he needs to be in the lineup. Chuba Hubbard is another must start for me, and Aaron Jones. Obviously, we saw one good game. He's been banged up. He's been hurt, but it was a great matchup last week. And I think with the way that he played last week, I think that he'll get the touches, and that's what we need, right? We need the touches, and then we need the opportunities. He is a beast regardless of how old he is. He is aging. I don't know how much longer he'll be. He hasn't been reliable, but I think that he's a must start this week as well. Now Khalil Herbert might be on your waiver wire. Again, if you're desperate, Khalil Herbert is, I'd be very weary, because I think Deonta Foreman's going to be back. He had some personal issues last week. So don't pick him up thinking that he's going to, come out like he did this week. So it's going to be a 3-headed monster there with Deonta in the back and Roshan, of course. Okay. And then moving on to tight ends, I think our tight end of the week, the tight end start of the week, is going to be Trey McBride. Okay. So Trey McBride is, he has a great matchup. He has been also very, very reliable when it comes to getting the fantasy points that we need. He's, they're going up against the Eagles, but last week he only had like 9 points, but again, we're averaging like, 9 to 14 points with most of our tight ends, right? So like, if we can pull, I think we can pull at least, 15 points out of him. He's also scored 20 plus in 3 of his last 6 contests. So the matchup is favorable, and I think that we have an opportunity for him to take you over the top if you need that upside. And then Darren Waller didn't really come out, the veteran didn't do much coming out against last week, coming out for his first game back, but like, he has an opportunity here as well against the Rams. I think it's another favorable matchup. Again, we look at these tough defenses against running backs and wide receivers. Well, that's where the tight end gets to shine. So I think Darren Waller is a start if you are, thin at the flex position, or if you have like a solid tight end and then you need another flex position, I would throw him in there. And then Kyle Pitts and Gerald Everett, weary again, middle of the road, but I think that there's opportunities for us to, see the targets. Because, Gerald Everett seeing 8 targets in the last 3 games. Kyle Pitts, he's nearly impossible to trust. But going against the Bears, and mind you, I'm a Bears fan, it's not too bad. Not too bad. A couple other starts. Now we've got, David Njoku, right? We already know that that's looking nice. Cole Kmet, and then Chiggy. So Chiggy, Laporta over Chiggy for me, no doubt. I know it's Dallas, but Laporta is not human. Back to that. And my sit of the week is going to be Dalton Kincaid. All right, Trojan. I'm going Likely. Absolutely. Likely's more, you can trust him more. And Pitts is not that reliable. I think that I'm trying to find players for people who are really thin. Like, let's say you had some massive injuries. I had Pacheco's knocked out for me last week. I have Hawkinson. I've got all these people in my championship lineups that I thought were going to take me to the top. So I'm definitely going Likely over Pitts for sure. You guys have any other questions? Because like I said, today is going to be a short show, quick, short and sweet. And we're going to jump back in next week. I got special guests. I've got some crazy fun videos for you. You'll get a nice kick out of those with our nice memorial to all of our lost players through this season who lost me several leagues. All right. And we're also going to highlight some of the best of. So if you guys want, go on to the Queen's Ransom Instagram or the Fantasy Football Advice Instagram. If you haven't hit that like or subscribe, please hit that and jump on there and tell us what your favorite fantasy moments were of this year, and then I'll feature them. Please, please, please. All right. So thanks for joining me for this quick set, you guys. Quick little 20 minutes. Good luck, and we'll catch us on Sunday on the last episode of Spilled Coffee with Fantasy Football Wishlist. He is the founder and creator of Queen's Ransom, and without him, we would not have any of this. So thanks, guys. Good luck.